Okay, Mishlei 22:5, which is a weird pasuk, and I think it is actually. We might also take a detour at some point to the way Chazal interpret this. I don't know if any of the meforshim are going to bring it up. Okay, Sinim pachim b'derech ikesh shomer nafsho yirchak mehem. Okay. Oh, I actually forgot to look up one thing. Oh, whatever. So tsinim pachim. Okay, so those are two terms I was not familiar with. So the Torah dictionary translates it as thorns, and then pachim. Hey, pachim are bird traps, or metaphorically like a calamity or a plot. Okay, so I guess we'll translate this as thorns. Let me make this a little bigger.
In Hebrew, I think the path is trash.
In modern Hebrew, you mean? Yeah, right. Thorns and we'll say traps for now. Okay. B'derech ikesh are on the path of a, ikesh? Ikesh, so let's look it up here. I think we had it on a Monday night shiur. We'll see. Ikesh is twisted or perverted. A generation that is twisted and crooked. Okay, so on the path of let's say crooked. Okay, because perverted in English has a different connotation. Okay, a crooked person. Shomer nafsho yirchak mehem. One who guards his soul will distance, I think it's himself, from them. Okay, so that is how we're taking it. Oh, so yeah, sounds like it. Okay, Mitsudas Sion says sinim is kotim, kamo ulitzninim b'tzidechem. Okay, so he agrees that it means thorns. Sadigon says that sininim hamukashim b'derech ha'ikesh shomer nafsho yisrachik mehem. So he translates as not sinim and pachim, but thorns that ensnare. Okay, ensnare are on the path of the crooked person. And then
makes me think of,
yeah,
when you're like walking and there's like those like thorns like jut out and catch your clothing and like
yeah, I think that's what I was talking about. Yeah. So in other words, just to be clear about what he's doing here, so the pasuk seems to be tsinim and pachim, but Sadigon says that pachim is an adjective. Thorns that trap, or ensnaring thorns. Actually, ensnaring thorns would be better. Ensnaring thorns are on the path of a crooked person. One who guards himself will distance himself from them. Yeah, so he explicitly says guards himself. Okay, Targum. I did not look this up. Nishva ba'archa. Yeah.
Is he giving advice to the crooked person on how to guard himself?
That's a good question. Let's list that as a question tier. Who is this advice for? Right? Is it for the crooked person? Right? Because it sounds like it is talking to the crooked person. Because why are you?
He just said the crooked person.
Yeah. All right. That's a good question. Yeah. So is it for the crooked person as it implies, or if it's not, then why are we telling him about what is on the path of the crooked person? Okay, good. Okay, Targum, let's not look at Targum right now. We got enough on our plate. Oh, and I added the Malbim because I just noticed that the Malbim says tsinim is chole haba ayde tsina. So tsina means cold. So Malbim says illnesses that come from the cold. Okay, and pachim, como pachim esh v'gofris, hafachas ha'esh is like things that are heat related. Como pachim esh. I don't know what pachim esh are.
Fire trashes.
I get that trash is a modern Hebrew word. I would have yet to see if that is actually a biblical Hebrew word.
Like on the street,
like a fire pan.
Yeah, fire pan. There we go. So second translation is plates of metal, right? Yeah. So illnesses come from cold and fire, and like let's say like fire pans. Okay, so that's how he translates it. That makes even less sense of a crooked person. Okay, so that's going to be interesting. Yeah. I know, it's weird, right? Okay, our scroll says thorns and snares are in the path of the perverse. He who guards his soul will distance himself from them. Okay, that's close enough to ours. Living Knot says ensnaring thorns are in the way of the crooked. He who values his life, that's too much of an interpretation, keeps far away from them. Thorns and pitfalls. Okay, so pitfalls is actually a good one, right? Let's say pitfalls, because no one's sending out human traps unless you're really, really messed up, you know, to snare them like you do with animals. So pitfall is a good thing. In the way of the crooked, who guards his life keeps far from them. Okay, so questions.
Well, in this pasuk, like, what's like the mashal for thorns and for traps? Like, do they commit two separate?
Yeah. Okay. So I agree that thorns probably is a mushal. Well, actually, you know, let's just ask this as a question first of all. Okay.
I'm not saying it has to be much. I'm just saying.
Okay. Right.
Something.
Yeah, that's even my question.
Yeah.
Like,
Are sinim pachim a literal or a metaphor? If and either way, what is this talking about? Yeah.
And I'm gonna just ask a lot of questions. Unless I'm gonna stop, this is the one that's there. So
okay, just breathe in between them, just to give other people opportunities.
yeah. All right. So crooked person. Is there like a difference between a crooked person and a Russia?
Okay, so let's say, what is an ikesh? Crooked in what way? How is he different from a Russia or a fool?
Yeah.
Fool? Yeah.
Like, will we see these traps like with the Russia too?
Yeah.
When it says one who guards his soul distance himself from them,
Yeah.
maybe them is the crooked people.
Oh, okay, so that's another good question, right? So, okay, one who guards his soul distances himself from them. Okay, who is the them? So grammatically, like, you would think that the them is the sinim pachim because that's plural, right? But you could also say it's from people who are the crooked. So let's just say, is it the sinim pachim, as would be indicated?
And I only say that because of my previous question.
Yes, right. Yeah, that definitely makes for a consistent reading. Okay, or is it from the ikesh? The ikesh. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Isaac?
Where does it show my nafsho?
Where? Okay, meaning like when he guards himself, where does he go?
No, I said what is a shomer
What?
nafsho?
Okay, yeah. What is a shomer nafsho? Right, and like just to like direct the question a little bit more. Also, like, is this merely like? Okay, let's put it this way. Does this quality? I don't know if this is the best way to say it. What level of perfection does this indicate about him? Okay, in other words, is he merely trying to avoid these sinim pachim? Sinim pachim. Is he trying? Yeah. Is he trying not to be an ikesh? Right? Like, is this a chacham or a tzaddik? I mean, it sounds like it's, in other words, just describing his behavior. It's not really describing his characteristics. So we have to like figure out what his characteristics are.
Just going back to the questions I asked.
Yeah.
Now, is this like meaning specific to a crooked person, or is it also like applicable to like a Russia or other people? Like, is there like a difference in? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just add that to this question here. Okay, which is, can we? Oh, sorry. Is this? Yeah, no, let me get another question. Is this specific to an ikesh, or would this also apply to other mishleic bad guys?
It's it's interesting because it seems like from the pasuk that you'll have these pitfalls and thorns if you are a crooked person,
Yeah.
But so the second half of the pasuk, it would seem like you're not that person anyway.
Well, unless you take it the way Moshe is taking it, which is that the advice is talking to someone who is an Ikesh and saying, if you're an Ikesh, then since you're going to find these things on your path, then you should guard yourself from them.
I mean, why not just, if that's true, why not just say don't be a crooked person?
I mean, presumably the guy is crooked for certain reasons, right? But I mean, that's the interesting thing about the pasuk, is because if you say it's not talking about an Ikesh, if it's not talking to an Ikesh, so then why does he have to worry about these thorns and traps like only the Ikesh does? You know?
Yeah, that's my
Oh,
question.
that's a good question.
That's my,
Yeah.
that's exactly my
Oh, I thought that was part of your question. Yeah, and like that's the other side of your question. Your question is if it's there's like this. If it's talking to
I
the
didn't even think about that.
yeah, right. So this is why it's like a catch-22. If it's talking to the Ikesh, which makes sense because that would make sense because it's telling him what is on his path, But if it's not talking to the Ikesh, then why does he even need to be warned? Yeah. I'll spell that out a little more.
Question. Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Who's this advice for? Is it for the Ikesh? Okay. Yeah, if it's not, then why? Yeah, I wrote that there. Yeah. Okay. I think we also need to ask, practically speaking, what does it mean to distance oneself, right? How do you do this? Yeah. Okay. I think that might be it, right? For the questions. Okay, so now we got to figure it out. Right. So I think the central question is going to be, I mean, we either have to start with what is an Ikesh or what are these sinim pachim, We can't really touch the second half of the pasuk until we do the first half, I think.
I have a thought just about the mashal.
Yeah.
Like just trying to make sense of what's going on in the pasuk.
Yeah.
You have basically imagine there's a path with it's clear in the center and there's thorns on the side.
Oh, that's how you're taking it.
Yeah, and the Ikesh is like going like this, and so he keeps brushing against the thorns and the traps and whatever, and the shiur is careful to stay on the center of the path so he doesn't brush up against the thorns.
Okay, so that's entirely different than how I was taking it. I thought that there are thorns and traps on the actual path itself, not next to the path, not on the sides of the path. So let's actually add this to the question here. Okay, what does it mean? Let's say, what does it mean by derech? Are these sinim pachim on the path where you walk, or are they lining the path on the sides? Yeah.
So okay, and just to talk about what I was saying, the Ikesh is like deviate from the path, whatever the path is, like whatever that means, but he deviates from the path, and so therefore he ends up walking into the thorns and the pitfalls.
Right.
But with someone who's show sees the thorns and is careful to avoid them by staying on the center path. Okay,
so you're making me think of another possibility, which is in line with what I was saying, but I think it also is consistent with what you're saying, which is like this. There's the path that like the normal non-crooked person takes, right? Like the person who's like straight or uncrooked. And that path doesn't have any thorns and traps. But the problem with the Ikesh is he tries to take all these shortcuts, to getting what he wants. And therefore, since that's not like the right path, then he's going to run into all these like, thorns and traps. So that's consistent with what I'm saying by saying that these thorns and traps are of the nature that they will only be on a path that you're not supposed to use, but it's in line with the way you're reading it, because this guy is going off the the beaten path to try to like, like this is a dumb example, but like if you try to like break into a building, like, and you're gonna like break through the window and like get all cut up and stuff like that, or like climbing over the barbed wire fence and getting snagged there. Yeah, because you're not going through the front door. Like you went through the front door in the legitimate way, you're not going to encounter these things. This guy will encounter them because he's not going through the proper means, proper channels. Yeah, I think that makes sense, right? Okay, so now we also kind of are figuring out a little bit what the crooked person means, or like who that person is. Could we get that a little bit more clear? Is he called a crooked person? Never mind.
I mean, it says crooked.
Yeah, right. So I think there are two ways you can take it. Like crooked is either going to mean like internally there's something that you could describe as crooked about him, or he's called a crooked person because he does these like decisions that are not like legit. Like if you say like that's where the word, I never noticed this before. That's where the word crook comes from, probably. Right? You're a crook.
What do you mean? Where does it come from?
Let me just see if I'm right and I'm not just making this up. Etymology of
even if it's not true, it's an excellent armchair etymology.
Yes, it is. Okay, so crook is, that's not the type of thing. Crook.
Wait, I had it up there. If you make up the second paragraph, or
doesn't, okay, crooked conduct. Yeah, let me just look at the Google one. That's better. Crook. Nope, not crooked. No, crook. Okay. Informal person who's dishonest or a criminal. And yeah, I mean, I think it does come from crooked. Yeah, from a hook tool, deceitful, guile, trickery. Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So do you call him a crook because internally he's corrupted, or do you call him a crook because he does crooked things, like he does like criminal activities? And obviously the criminal activities do stem from some internal thing. Maybe it doesn't matter. Oh, I know one question we didn't ask. Shomer nafsho. Well, okay. Well, I was guess what is a shomer nafsho? But like, also, does nafsho mean? Does nafsho mean? What happened? Mean himself or his soul? And the word can be translated either way. So is this guy guarding his soul, or is he just guarding himself? See, in terms of your question that you asked at one point of if this is, so let's say this is talking to a crooked person, right? So maybe the pasuk is not telling him that it's not directly telling him to not be crooked. It's just saying that if you are crooked and you're going to be inclined to take these like paths with all these harms on them. So like if you're smart, you'll guard yourself from those paths, But then I don't know what crooked would mean, unless crooked is an internal thing. Like in other words, maybe it's possible that this pasuk is just talking to a crooked person and saying you could either be a stupid crooked person or a smart crooked person. The stupid crooked person takes these paths that are going to have additional harms, but the smart crooked person is going to find a way to like fulfill his crooked goals, but without going on these like illegitimate paths, like the mafia, or like, best example, this is not a spoiler because this is just part of the plot of like, in Breaking Bad, like Gustavo Fring, and this is true of a lot of like real criminals. They have a legitimate business, and they also do a lot of criminal activity, but like they have like a legitimate business. They don't just do crime. They do like legitimate stuff also in order to like minimize the harm that comes from living a life of crime.
It's a lot of money.
That's part of it also, right? But part of it also is to keep up a respectable front, right? Yeah.
About that thing you just said, I think that the path and the crooked person are like intrinsic, So like if you're crooked, you're gonna go on the crooked path.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I think that that's definitely why it does make sense to say that the pasuk is talking to the crooked person, because even if he tries to do what I'm saying, it's only a matter of time before he tries to cut a corner and then he's going to get into one of these like bad situations, you know? Yeah.
I have a thought about
Let me just go with Ariel first. Yeah.
So I don't think it's talking about a crooked person.
Okay.
I think it's talking about this pasuk is just warning. It's just a warning about this specific lifestyle, right? Because like I think a crooked person, like just using your example, just means you sometimes just go about life in a roundabout way or whatever.
Yeah.
You get shortcuts to like money or whatever, and that would sometimes mean doing things you're not supposed to be doing. Like Marty, he wanted a lot more money.
Yeah.
And he found a great way to do it very quickly. Right. But like that comes with a lot of
So then according to that, it's just one step removed from what Moshe is saying, and I think answers the question, which is we're not talking to someone who is already crooked. We're talking about someone who is very, very prone, who's very tempted by that lifestyle. Yeah. And it's telling him the way you just said it, which is if you take the path, if you become a crooked person, you will end up on a path of these that crooked people are on, and then you're going to get these types of pitfalls and traps, Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah, I have a thought about the difference between sinim and pachim.
Okay.
So I think
I do too. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I think sinim, a person can see thorns before they encounter them. It might be hard to avoid them, but you can like foresee them and to some extent try to prepare for them.
Yeah.
And like pitfalls or traps are by nature hidden. Like you're not gonna discover them until it's already too late.
Okay.
So like I think that like with like someone who's like a crooked person, there are types of consequences that the person can like easily foresee. Like, oh, if I steal from this person, he's gonna be mad at me.
Right.
If he figures that. And like there's gonna be like those repercussions. Like, oh, if you rob a bank, you might go to jail.
Right.
But like then there's also like the more hidden things, like, oh, if I'm like talking to someone about how I like got away with like stealing from this company, then they'll never trust me again.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Those are like more. Yeah.
All right. Good. Yeah. All right.
Can I just add to that? Like the thorn, like this thing, like a thorn in my thigh.
Yeah.
Like you see the thorn, you recognize the thorn is just there.
Yeah.
Right. It's like let's say you're a drug dealer or whatever.
Right.
It's like the thorn in your eyes are people. Like the cops. Like know they exist, and know it's gonna just cause stress.
Right. So are you differentiating between sinim and pachim, or you're just giving an example?
Yeah, I'm giving sinim and pachim.
So what's the pachim then?
No, I think and the pach are just unforeseen consequences.
Okay, all right, I see that also. So Isaac's just make sure I get the difference. Isaac's distinction is thorns are things you can see, pachim are things you can't see. And then Ariel's saying it's things you can see that are like clearly like ever present, and pachim are also unforeseen consequences. I was thinking sinim could be so to speak natural harms, and pachim are harms that are set by human beings, So like let's say like you are in the what would be a good example of this? Like in
let's say in the example I was saying where you steal from the company. Right. I'd say like the quote unquote natural harms are, if you get caught, there's like the natural like consequences of being like stealing, where like let's say that it won't do whatever the law is or something like that, or I guess you could also say that it's Mishlei consequences, but I think like I'm inclined to say it's like, oh, I guess I'm going back to what I was saying before.
Yeah. So an example I'm going to give is a weird example, but let's say like people who are Olympic athletes and they take performance enhancing drugs, right? Steroids and stuff, right? So there are natural consequences of that in terms of what it's doing to your body, because you're doing stuff to your body that you don't actually like, that's not supposed to be. And then there's also the possibility that they're going to get caught. So the first one is just a natural consequence. The second one is a trap that is set to catch people like this. So there's going to be both of those things. Okay, so now we have a really good thing for the first half of the pasuk. Okay, so then what is the second half saying? One who guards himself will distance himself from them. So our questions on that are, is nafsho self or is it soul? And then is he distancing himself from the tzinim pachim or from the ikesh? I mean, according to the way you're saying it, that they're the same person, then you don't really need to make that judgment. You could just say he's distancing himself from that whole like lifestyle, right?
So when you say self or soul, what is that mean?
Well, self is your entire self, like physical and psychological harm. Also, soul would be he's guarding himself from the type of corruption that leads people to cheat, like he's guarding his decision making or something like that.
Wouldn't it be according to what we're saying? Wouldn't it be self? I'm sorry, soul. Because it's really just like it's really just like a decision making type thing.
See, okay, well, let me give a very subtle a point here, I think, which is the audience of this pasuk. If you tell him, hey guy, don't be corrupt, he's not really going to listen. But if you say you're going to get this ensnared and caught, and if you don't want that, then you got to like stay off of this crooked path. Then he'll accept.
So that's not the self.
That's the self, not the soul. I think, in other words, I think it makes more sense than Mishlei saying if you don't want to be harmed by tzinim pachim, then you will avoid the path of the derech ikesh. And in doing that, you are going to be protecting your soul also. But that's not the argument Shlomo was using. He's saying
So self just. Okay, fine. So because I agree with what you just said. I just didn't realize.
Functionally, it's going to be the same advice, but I'm saying I don't think people who are tempted by a life of crime don't buy the argument of distance yourself from bad behavior, but they will buy the argument of don't get caught by the cops or don't get involved in a dangerous scenario. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So then
it's good, right? Yeah, I think we have the pasuk. Okay, so let's look at some meforshim here. Oh, I forgot to open up the meforshim.
Oh, wow. One pasuk.
Yeah, well, this is always going to happen with when we have fewer people. Like last year, we averaged a pasuk.
Having fewer people is more efficient?
It's more efficient, but it's also less fruitful because you don't hear as many ideas,
It's only more so because there are more ideas coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can think about the ideas.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. But I kind of want to look at some meforshim. But I was going to say, last year we averaged one pasuk every day because there were typically only 2 or 3 people here. This year we got like 5 to 8 people. So.
Yeah, I think it was every other day. Every other pasuk would be a 1-day pasuk.
Yeah, right. What was it, Moshe?
Yeah, but
we came up with a pretty good amount of stuff for that pasuk.
Yeah, we did. I'm not criticizing ideas.
I thought we were gonna have a few questions.
Yeah, me too. It fell together really smoothly. But the other thing also is there's certain. The more people you have, the more chances there are that someone's going to be looking at it in a completely different way. I think we were all on a similar page, but that's also partially why when I taught Mishlei in high school, it was often good because you'll get people who just don't know how to think, but they will have good intuitions, and it'll be something. I would never have thought of it that way, but once you say it, we have to examine it, and then it becomes fruitful.
Wow.
What?
I remember.
Really cool how that works.
Yeah.
We could just take a moment and just see how the pasuk would turn out if you're talking to an actual crooked person.
Sure, let's do that. Isn't that what we're saying? We are saying that, right? We're not saying that. An actual crooked person, right? So I think the idea we're saying you could apply to an actual crooked person because but here's how you have to say it. You have to take a crooked person who's intent on cheating, okay? He knows he's going to cheat. And we have to show him is you're going to have to say, okay, tell me your plan, right? So show you, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make these arrangements with these people and do this thing. And you point out to him what the tzinim pachim are that he's going to encounter. Okay, then he's going to be okay, fine. So I'll take another plan. I'll do this, I'll disable these alarms and knock this guy out or whatever. And then you show him, okay, but then you're going to be leaving all these forms of evidence and you're going to get trapped. And what you're going to eventually show him is every crooked path is going to have these types of things. And the only way he could avoid them is to not take a crooked path,
So if you have a crooked guy who's just but this is just what I love to do.
Mm-hmm. So the argument to use, the argument you have to use is you have to set it up as a cost. like, are you willing to pay the cost of these types of harms or in order to get the benefit that you want? And there are some people who are willing to pay the costs, like they're going to be willing to like get involved with the cartel, if in order to make the extra money. But like, you have to really show them what the costs are. Like the cartel will kill you if they think that you're stealing from them, and like, do you really want to put yourself in that situation? Or like, once you get involved in the cartel, there's no way out.
So is there a difference between like this is like my passion in life, like this is what I love to do, like what if there's a guy who's like, my passion is to support the cartel because I believe in what they're doing.
Is to do what?
It's to like support the cartel because that's what I believe in.
Right. I mean,
Mission, yeah.
Look, there are people whose passion is to be a serial killer, right? They're very passionate, and like, if they are not psychotic, they will realize this is not a sustainable passion. Like maybe, if you want to actually like, like if you want to take that route, you're gonna get your thrill, and then you're gonna get in jail for the rest of your life, or get killed.
Okay, I have another question just in terms of like methodology and Mishlei.
Sure.
So when you do come up with an idea, like sometimes, at least for me, like it's like if I come up with an idea in my mind, like that's the idea, like that, like I can only see it this way. Yeah. Do you think it's a benefit to try to force yourself to think of like another?
Oh, so you know what? I actually just made a podcast episode about that this morning. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and what it was about. Yeah, what it was. Yeah. So what it was about. Well, I recorded it yesterday, but I released it this morning. So what it's about is, when I teach Mishlei, the way we tend to do it here is like, we get multiple ideas. Okay, and there is a benefit in doing that. But here's the thing: is I like it when you get one idea, because if you get one idea, it registers in your mind as a reality. Like, this is what the pasuk is saying. Whereas if you get lots of ideas, it puts it into the realm of the intellectual, of like, okay, this is an opinion, this is an opinion, this is an opinion, And so like when I would teach in high school, I would usually do one idea per pasuk, and then that's it. That's how I started off doing it, because like it registers in your mind more. So you know what we could do now? I'm persuading myself. So maybe let's not look at the meforshim. Let me show you an interesting thing that Chazal do, okay? And we'll start thinking about that, because it's enough removed from the pasuk that it won't feel like another idea. Hold on just a second here.
Meaning general, let's say like learning Gemara, like you want probably. Yeah,
so when you're learning Gemara, you want lots of opinions, because Gemara is primarily an intellectual endeavor. Right. Mishlei is intellectual and emotional, and it loses the power if you just have like a dozen ideas, Yeah. Okay. So I think, so the phrase, this is a well-known phrase. Hakol bidei shamayim chutz mi'yirah shamayim. Yeah, just went down the wrong pipe. Yeah. Everything is in the hands of heaven except for the fear of heaven. Okay, but there's another opinion, which is a little weird. I think this is it. Hold on. Where is it? Hold on. Actually, I'll cheat. Hold on. I'll cheat even more than I'm cheating right now. I know the pasuk don't cheat. So slow. Yeah. Okay. So this is Ksubos Lamed. Okay. So this is a weird Gemara. Hold on. Hakol. Okay. So there's Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz mi'yirah shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven except for the fear of heaven. Then this Gemara says, Vatanya Hakol b'dei shamayim chutz mitzinim pachim. Everything is in the hands of heaven except for tzinim pachim. Okay. Shnemar tzinim pachim b'derech ikesh shemer nafsho yirchak mehem.
This is in the Gemara?
This is in the Gemara. Yeah. Hold on a second. Maybe this is the same Gemara. Yeah. Where does it begin? I guess it does begin here. My time at Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakana, Amar Abaye Nemar Ason bidei Adam, Nemar Ason bidei Shemayim. Ason is like an accident. So an accident from a person and an accident from heaven. I don't know the context here. Ma Ason ha'amor bidei Adam pater minat tashlumin, af Ason ha'amor bidei Shemayim pater minat tashlumin. So just as an accident that comes about through a human being, you're pater from paying the recompense. Even an accident that came from heaven is pater. Maskif la Rav Ada bar Ahava. Mimai dechi ka mazir lehu Yaakov lemane al tinim pachim debidesh ma'im ninhu dima al arya v'ganve debidesh Adam ninhu atu Yaakov aha azir ahalo azir. Okay, yeah, I got to get the context of this. I thought there was a Gemara that made these as like a two shitos. Hold on, let me just see if I can find it.
Two shitos, whether or not split the Shema.
No, just they put it next to each other. Kol b'dan shemaim chutz miyur shemaim, and then kol b'dan shemaim chutz mitzinim pachim. Let me just see if no, maybe these are just two memras of Mציעא. No, okay. I think I have to look into this more. The last one is Bava Basra. Yeah. Okay, but that's the statement I was wondering about. Everything is in the hands of heaven except for Tzinin Pachim. Like, let's just take that in isolation. What would that mean? Everything is in the hands of heaven except for Tzinin Pachim. Hakol b'dei Shemaim chutz miyur Shemaim makes sense because that means there. I mean, the way the Rambam explains Yir Shemaim there is Bechira. Everything is in the hands of heaven except for Bechira. But Hakol b'dei Shemaim chutz mitzinim Pachim. Why specify Tzinin Pachim? You know.
Well, I mean, Tzinin Pachim isn't. I mean,
related to Bechira.
We were saying.
Yeah.
But it's not B'dei Shemaim.
Yeah, it's not B'dei Shemaim, right? But aren't there tons of things in Mishlei that are not B'dei Shemaim? It's like why Tzinin Pachim?
I don't know. I'm not gonna answer that question for now.
Sure.
But like I'm just saying, like over here, Tzinin Pachim, like the way we were translating these, like it's just the natural consequence of their action.
Right.
So if you say it's a natural consequence of their action, it's just really based off of, like you personally set things in motion.
Yeah.
Just look at the natural law. This is like who you are and which result in this certain event.
Yeah.
It's not really big issue. It's just
right. So that makes sense. I just wonder why this is being singled out. If there are so many things in Mishlei that are consequences that are also not B'dei Shemaim, why focus on Tzinin Pachim?
Can you give me other examples that are not B'dei Shemaim?
All consequences of decisions. Every single consequence of a decision that you make is by virtue of saying it's a consequence of a decision, then it's, and also here's a better question. Why these Tzinin Pachim are on the derech of an ikesh, right? But like, okay, even fine, you could say that. Yeah, fine, never mind. Another thing that we can think about now. So that's one thing that I want to think about at some point. The other thing is what's the Malbim's thing? That a cold, diseases that come from the cold and then hot. I mean, are those on the davka on the derech of an ikesh? Like, can we learn that? It's possible he's just saying the same idea that we are, but he's just interpreting the consequences as differently. Should we like? Yeah.
Maybe it's like he's gonna, because he's, let's say, if he's like far from civilization or something, then like, he's gonna be camping out in the cold and getting sick and like heating himself by a fire and getting too warm or something. I don't know, something like that.
Okay, that could be. Let's actually read what he says, just because it's probably going to be very different than the way we did it, so we can separate the ideas. The proper path in the paths of the soul is the middle path. Okay, so he's taking this completely out of the realm of what we're doing. He's saying the path we're talking about is the soul. This is like the Rambam's thing, right? There's the middle path, and that's the good one, but the extreme of excess or the extreme of deficiency, that's called the crooked path. Nota min hayashar, because it deviates from the straight line. It gives a mashal from nature. Air that is the proper temperature is healthy for the body. Okay, this is kind of outdated medical knowledge. If you go to the opposite extreme of heat, then you're going to burn your blood or overheat your blood. Because it's going to cause the redness and the dryness and the fire to overwhelm you. Okay, this is all like outdated medical stuff. That's what is pachim, shem gachalim boring. That's hot coals. tigaber hatzina. If you go to the extreme of deficiency, then cold will overtake you. Valkor yatzmis es hadam, that will cause the blood to restrict. V'zeha kore tzinim chole haba al yedei rov hatzina. Okay, ushnehem mimisim es hagvia. Both of them are lethal. V'chein b'hanafas hanhagos hanafashos. Same thing with bodily conduct of your souls. B'katze hayisron tilahatehu eish boer, uv'katze hachesron takpiehu hakor v'harifayon. L'chein shomer nafsho yirachach min hakatzavos v'yelach derech hayashar hamamutza. Yeah, so he's just talking about like in midos, and not going to any excess and going in the middle path. And he's saying that the pasuk is just bringing an analogy from the physical. So the idea, according to him, I think is like this: is that back then he's saying that there was this well-known truth that in matters of physical health, it's obvious that if you go to an extreme, then it's going to be bad. So he's saying, why is it then that when it comes to your midos, then people will go to excess and deficiency without thinking that they're going to harm themselves? So he's saying this is a principle of nature, that you can't go to excess or deficiency without harming yourself. Everyone knows that if you overeat any sort of like type of food, like you get too much sugar, too much fat, whatever, then that's going to harm you, or too little of what you need, and that's going to harm you. So why is it that people look for too much money or too much like pleasure, Yeah. So completely different than the approach we were taking. Yeah. I like our approach better. Okay, this is a good stopping point though. So tomorrow, let's plan on going over the meforshim. And what we're going to have to do is also give the people who come tomorrow and didn't come today a chance to see like if they can like think of something on their own. Okay.
Yeah, so how are you gonna do it? Are you gonna review everything first and then tell them?
Yeah, I'll tell them what we said, and then ask if they have any ideas. All right.
So how much time are you giving for the ideas?
Not as much as I usually give. Yeah, I'm gonna go to meforshim. All right, sounds good. See ya. Thanks for coming.